Anu reigned over a court of great splendor. It was a place with an artificial garden sculpted with semi-precious stones. There Anu resided with his wife and half-sister Antu, 6 concubines, 80 children, of which 14 were by Antum, Soast Prime Minister, 3 commanders in charge of the MU rockets bips, 2 commanders of the weapons, 2 great masters of written knowledge, 1 minister of the purse, 2 chief justices, 2 chief scribes, and 5 assistant scribes, all of which Balus wanted to rule. The kingdom of the skies was called Malakut, and the blue planet was called Ardut, and the great kingdom of Tamara, Egypt, was originally called Kemet after the constellation Kima, Pleiades, one of the original homes inhabited by the Anunnaki, who were called Neteru by the Egyptians when they could no longer live on Q. The Anunnaki named it Nibruki, the birthplace of Nibiru, and Nippur in Akkadian. It was ruled by Enlil before the procreation of Kadmon and Nekai-Bau. And on the other side was the evil ones in the land called Aranzak. They had a leader whose name as an Anunnaki is Gikun, legion of them, or Hailal. He is the father of the disagreeable Anunnaki species. He is the head of the 200 fallen Nephilian, Nephilites or Yahwehan, called Luciferians. Nephi is called Lucifer or Satan. Then there was Asbil. He was the teacher of the 200 fallen angels when on Ardut. How to be Humim is what he taught them. In the distant world of Nibiru, a rivalry ignited between 2 brothers, Enqi, the wise firstborn, and Enlil, the lawful heir. Their father, King Anu, ruled with absolute authority, but his son's ambitions clashed at every turn. Enqi, a brilliant scientist, challenged tradition. Enlil, a strict commander, enforced it. Enqi was well versed in his planet's Nibiru and its inhabitants' past. An accomplished scientist, he bequeathed the most important aspects of the advanced knowledge of the Anunnaki, especially to his 2 sons, Marduk and Ningish-Zida, who, as Egyptian gods, were known there as Ra and Thoth, respectively. But he also was instrumental in sharing with mankind certain aspects of such advanced knowledge, by teaching to selected individuals the secrets of the gods. In at least 2 instances, such initiates wrote down, as they were instructed to do, those divine teachings as mankind's heritage. One, called Adapa, and probably a son of Enki by a human female, is known to have written a book titled Writings Regarding Time 1 of the Earliest Lost Books. The other, called Enmeduranki, was in all probability the prototype of the biblical Enoch, the one who was taken up to heaven after he had entrusted to his sons the Book of Divine Secrets, and of which a version has possibly survived in the extra-biblical Book of Enoch. Though the firstborn of Anu, he was not destined to be his father's successor on the throne of Nibiru. Complex rules of succession, which reflected the convoluted history of the Nibiruans, gave that privilege to Enki's half-brother, Enlil. In the effort to resolve the bitter conflict, both Enki and Enlil ended up on a mission to an alien planet Earth, whose gold was needed to create a shield for preserving Nibiru's dwindling atmosphere. It was against that background, made even more complex by the presence on Earth of their half-sister Ninhursag, the chief medical officer of the Anunnaki, that Enki decided to defy Enlil's plan to have mankind perish in the deluge, that all of them, and especially those born on Earth, faced the loss of longevity that Nibiru's extended orbital period provided added personal agonies and sharpened ambitions. It all came to a climax in the last century of the 3rd millennium BC, when Marduk, Enki's firstborn by his official spouse, claimed that he and not Enlil's firstborn son, Ninurta, should inherit the earth. The bitter conflict that included a series of wars led in the end to the use of nuclear weapons. The ensuing, though unintended, result was the demise of the Sumerian civilization. The initiation of chosen individuals into the secrets of the gods had marked the beginning of priesthood, the lineages of mediators between the gods and the people, the transmitters of the divine words to the mortal earthlings. Oracles' interpretations of divine utterances were commingled with the observation of the heavens for omens. And as mankind was increasingly drawn to take sides in the godly conflicts, prophecy began to play a role. Indeed, the term to denote such spokesmen of the gods, who proclaimed what was to come, Nabi, was the epithet for Marduk's firstborn son, Nabu, who had tried, on behalf of his exiled father, to convince mankind that the heavenly signs bespoke the coming supremacy of Marduk. These developments sharpened the realization that one must distinguish between fate and destiny. The proclamations of Enlil, sometimes even of Anu, that used to be unquestioned, were now subjected to the scrutiny of the difference between Nam, a destiny, like the planetary orbits, whose course had been determined and was unchangeable, and Nam, Ta, literally, a destiny that could be bent, broken, changed, which was fate. Reviewing and recalling the sequence of events, and the apparent parallelism between what had happened on Nibiru and what took place on Earth, Enki and Enlil began to ponder philosophically what indeed was destined and could not have been avoided, and what was just fated as a consequence of right or wrong decisions and free choice. The latter could not be predicted. The former could be foreseen, especially if all, as the planetary orbits, was cyclical. If what was shall again be, if the first things shall also be the last things. The climactic event of the nuclear desolation sharpened soul-searching among the leaders of the Anunnaki and raised the need to explain to the devastated human masses why it came to pass this way. Was it destined, or was it just the result of an Anunnaki-made fate? Was anyone responsible? Is there someone accountable? In the councils of the Anunnaki, on the eve of the calamity, it was Enqi who stood alone in opposition to the use of the forbidden weapon. It was thus important for Enqi to explain to the suffering remnants, Hot, that turning point in the saga of extraterrestrials who had meant well but ended as destroyers had come to pass. And who but Ea Enqi, who was the first to come and an eyewitness to it all, was most qualified to tell the past so that the future could be divined? And the best way to tell it all was as a first-person report by Enqi himself. The conflict carried on between the two half-brothers' sons, even among their grandchildren. The fact their feud, rooted in birthright and law, would not stay confined to Nibiru. When their conflict spilled onto Earth, it shaped the fate of cities, laws, and even humanity itself. The echoes of their struggle would define the destiny of our world. This is the story of a cosmic feud that became the foundation of human history. The crisis began when Queen Antum, unable to bear an heir, offered her servant Id to King Anu as a surrogate. Id bore Nudimud, Enqi, the king's first son, who was raised as the future heir. But fate intervened. Antum miraculously conceived and gave birth to Nunamnir, Enlil. Nibiruan law favoured the son of the official queen, instantly making Enlil the legal heir and displacing Enqi. Enqi's destiny was stolen by a twist of tradition, planting seeds of resentment. The royal succession was no longer a matter of law, but of bitter rivalry. This single event set brother against brother, with consequences that would reach far beyond Nibiru. Antum's jealousy of Id and Enki grew unbearable. She demanded their exile, and King Anu, seeking peace, sent them to the harsh desert of Eridu. In exile, Enki's sense of injustice deepened. He was the firstborn, yet cast out. The desert forged his resolve and fueled his anger toward Enlil, whom he saw as a usurper. This act of banishment transformed a legal dispute into a personal vendetta. Enki's exile became the crucible of his ambition and the true beginning of the brothers' eternal feud. The seeds of conflict had taken root, destined to grow far beyond Nibiru. When Nibiru's crisis led the Anunnaki to Earth, the brothers' feud followed. Enlil, as commander, imposed strict order, dividing the Anunnaki, founding cities and enforcing his will. Enqi, ever the innovator, defied his brother's authority, seeking new possibilities on this strange world. Their opposing visions created chaos among their people and shaped the fate of Earth itself. The struggle was no longer just for a throne, but for the soul of a new world. Humanity's destiny would be forged in the fires of their rivalry. The ancient feud was about to become the story of us all. The roots of this cosmic conflict lay in Queen Antum's desperate act to secure the royal line. Unable to bear an heir, she offered her handmaiden Id to King Anu as a surrogate, a move sanctioned by tradition but fraught with emotion. Id's child, Enqi, was meant to solve a crisis, but instead his birth complicated the royal succession. Antum's gambit, intended to preserve her power, only deepened the divisions within the royal house. The court watched as duty, jealousy and ambition collided. What began as a solution became the spark for a feud that would echo through the ages. In trying to save her dynasty, Antum set the stage for a conflict that would shape worlds. The royal gambit succeeded. Id gave birth to King Anu's firstborn, Nudimmud, a momentous event celebrated across Nibiru. He was hailed as the perfect heir, destined for greatness, and the answer to the kingdom's prayers. Yet a hidden vulnerability lingered. Nudimmud was not the queen's son, but the handmaiden's. The law's subtlety waited, ready to change everything. Fate delivered a stunning twist to the kingdom. Queen Antum, long thought barren, was miraculously pregnant. Her son, Nunamnir, was born and instantly became the legal heir, displacing the brilliant firstborn, Nudimmud. This single birth upended the power structure, planting a bitter rivalry that would shape the dynasty's future. With her son Nunamnir named heir, Queen Antum's relief turned to jealousy. Id and Enqi became threats, reminders of her own struggles. Driven by fear, Antum demanded their exile. King Anu complied, sending Id and Enqi into the harsh desert of Eridu. Exiled and betrayed, Enki's pain forged a fierce resolve to one day reclaim his place. Exile to Eridu was meant to erase Enqi, but it forged a rival instead. In the desert, stripped of royalty, he learned survival, science, and the raw truth of creation. His anger became ambition, his exile a crucible. Emerging as a leader, Enqi was now a rebel, ready to challenge the order and carve his own destiny. The Anunnaki arrived on Earth, seeking gold to save Nibiru. Enlil, the strict commander, saw a land to conquer, while Enqi, the curious scientist, saw a world of possibilities. Their old feud erupted again, dividing the Anunnaki between rigid order and bold innovation, an ancient rivalry reborn on a new world. and the Anunnaki had to go from the easy water treatment process to a hard toil process, which was to extract the gold from below the surface of the earth. They called it Abaddon. By that time, Enlil meaning ruler of the skies, or Nunamnia meaning the light of fish, which was his other name, son of Anu and Antum, was sent down to take charge of the Earth mission and organize the gold deliveries to Nibiru. This caused a rivalry and jealousy between the two brothers Enqi, god of the earth, and Enlil, god of the heavens, who were sons of Enu, the Most High God. The male species of the dragon people didn't want to cooperate with brother Enlil. They naturally preferred Enqi, as he was one of them, being the son of a Draco, or a being from the Drago star constellation. His mother Id was draconian. There are many strands and different breeds of Dracos, one commonly known as Valkuns, that were diving in the seas, also known as the Maldikians, living in the Bermuda Triangle, in Mu and Atlantis, not to be mistaken with another type of Maldikians called the Primitives. The Valkuns that lived in the sea were from the Mizar constellation, which is also referred to as Zeta Reticuli. They originated from the planet Maldek. However, when their planet was destroyed, some took residence on the planet Earth, while others took residence in the constellation Draco and Zeta Reticuli. One group were known as the Primitives, and one was known as the Dragon, or Draco. Both of these beings were testing with humims in hopes of breeding more humanoid beings to take over the planet Earth. The Primitives from the Bermuda Triangle, sometimes called Atlantis, refused to cooperate and surrender to their ancestors. The ones who came in were hoping that the Primitives from the Bermuda Triangle would accept the old ways from when they lived on the planet Maldek and follow their old leadership. However, they were wrong. So there has been a battle going on the planet Earth, beneath it, and interdimensionally, between the two groups of reptilians and greys. One group is set on evacuating the planet Earth and taking control of it by imprisoning human beings and using them as food, which are the Primitives. The other group is interested in the divine in humans by breeding the genes into the human beings. This is the group that Id, mother of Enki, came from. The word Zeta is the sixth letter in the Greek alphabet. The early letter Zeta was originally an I. The Greek alphabet came from the Phoenicians. The letter Z is the replica of the cobra, snake, which resembles the symbol for the Zeta Reticulans. The letter Zayin, Z, is the seventh letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and it means weapon. In the Canaanite language, the letter used as a Z also means weapon. The letter Zai is the 11th letter of the Asheric Syriac Arabic alphabet. As a numeral, Zain denotes 7. Another type of draconian species is called gargoyles that have special wings, which are flaps of skin supported by long ribs of dracona. They can be folded back against the body. It is obvious that the qualities have been ascribed to vampires. Take a close look at this word, vampire. V empires. So, what do you get? Vulcan Empire. The male species of gargoyles are called Valkyria, and they have the ability to fly. They nurture the eggs, and the females just lay them. These beings are also known as the dragon race, and the symbology usually includes the winged serpent. There are elements of their species which do not have wings, called the soldier class and scientist. There are many different breeds of draconians, just as there are many different breeds of humans. The draconian women loved Enlil because he was bringing down groups of Anunnaki men to Ki, which gave them an opportunity to copulate with them. The leader amongst the draconians, Sidihis, felt that if they mixed their seed with other beings then, they would be included in the Interplanetary Confederation. However, whatever decisions Enlil made, Enki disagreed with. This caused chaos on Chi. However, Nudimud's, Enki's and Nunamnia's Enlil's disagreement began when Antum, the wife and half-sister of Anu, gave her highest servant, Id, to her husband, Anu, to bear him a child. Enlil convened the Anunnaki Council, unveiling a plan for order and control on Earth. He established 7 great cities: Tilmun, Salam, Mu, Lumeria, Kodesh, Nifa, and Ashkelon, each a fortress of Nibiruan law. These cities, meticulously planned, were to ensure discipline, efficiency, and absolute authority, reflecting Enlil's vision of a perfectly controlled world. While Enlil built cities of order, Enki chose a different path, founding Nod, the land of wanderers. Nod welcomed outsiders, dissenters, and even beings from other worlds, becoming a vibrant, chaotic hub. Enki's domain stood for freedom, rebellion, and a new culture, defiant against Enlil's rigid rule. The establishment of Nod as a sanctuary for wanderers and aliens created a problem that Enlil could not ignore. The uncontrolled flow of beings into Enki's territory was a direct threat to his vision of an orderly and secure world. It blurred the lines he had so carefully drawn and introduced unpredictable elements into his grand equation. In response to this perceived chaos, Enlil, through his loyal administrators Kalkal and Nusku, took a step that would have repercussions for millennia. They created the world's first system of borders, restrictions, and legal status. In essence, they invented the concept of immigration law. These new laws were designed to do one thing: control movement. Borders were established around Enlil's 7 cities, turning them into fortified zones. Checkpoints were erected and patrols were initiated. No one could enter or leave these sanctioned territories without proper authorization. The Anunnaki were now formally divided into 2 classes: those who were loyal citizens of Enlil's domain and those who were outsiders. The wanderers and aliens welcomed by Enki in the land of Nod were officially designated as illegal, their presence unsanctioned. This was a radical act, transforming the open plains of a new world into a patchwork of restricted territories. Enki naturally saw this as yet another act of tyranny from his brother. He viewed these borders not as a tool for security, but as walls designed to imprison the minds and bodies of the Anunnaki. In his domain of Nod, he established a contrary set of principles. He declared his lands open to all who sought knowledge and refuge, regardless of their origin. This set the stage for a planet-wide Cold War. On one side was Enlil's federation of closed, orderly city-states, bound by strict laws and loyalty oaths. On the other was Enki's open land of Nod, a place of chaotic freedom, intellectual exchange, and simmering rebellion. This division had a profound effect on the Anunnaki population. Families were split, loyalties were tested, and a deep sense of us versus them began to permeate their society. Those within Enlil's territories were taught to fear the outsiders, to see the land of Nod as a place of corruption and danger. Those in Nod viewed Enlil's cities as prisons, ruled by a paranoid despot. The first immigration laws on Earth were not about protecting a native population. They were about 2 rival brothers attempting to impose their will on a planet, using borders and laws as weapons in their eternal feud. The division of Earth was now complete, a perfect mirror of the fractured relationship between Enlil and Enqi. The planet was no longer a unified Nibiruan colony. It was two separate and opposing realms, each governed by a different philosophy. Enlil's domain was a testament to order, discipline, and loyalty to the mission. His 7 cities were bastions of Nibiruan tradition, where every action was dictated by law and every individual had a designated role. It was a world of straight lines, clear hierarchies, and predictable outcomes, all designed to serve the needs of their distant home planet. It was a realm of command. In stark opposition stood Enqi's territory, the land of Nod. This was a realm of wisdom, but also of chaos. It was a dynamic, unpredictable world that embraced curiosity, tolerated dissent, and welcomed the unknown. Here, value was placed not on obedience, but on knowledge and innovation. Enqi's leadership was not based on divine right or legal decree, but on his intellectual prowess and his ability to inspire those who felt marginalized by his brother's rigid system. His land of wanderers became a crucible for new ideas, new alliances, and new ways of life, far from the watchful eyes of Enlil's enforcers. It was a world of endless questions and fluid boundaries. To bolster his power, Enqi made a strategic and fearsome alliance. He utilized the might of the Anakites, a race of giants who were already present on Earth. These powerful warriors became his personal enforcers, his Lugals or warlords. With the Anakites as his police force, Enqi's domain gained a military strength it had previously lacked. These Lugals began to project power beyond the borders of Nod, raiding nearby settlements and confiscating wealth, further destabilizing Enlil's carefully constructed order. Enqi, the Lord of Wisdom, was now also a warlord, using force to protect his realm of freedom. The Earth was now a chessboard for 2 divine players. Every move made by one was countered by the other. If Enlil built a city, Enqi founded a counterculture. If Enlil established a law, Enqi created a loophole. If Enlil demanded loyalty, Enqi fostered rebellion. The Anunnaki, who had come to Earth to save their world, were now hopelessly divided, their mission jeopardized by the ancient feud between the 2 sons of Anu. This planetary schism would not remain a private affair among the gods. It was a poisoned foundation upon which the future of a new, nascent species, humanity, would soon be built. In the land of Nod, Enqi welcomed powerful beings from the sky, avatars who descended in wondrous crafts, not Anunnaki but rebellious Aluhum from Nirvana. 200 of them arrived, seeking influence and power, mesmerizing the native Kuthites who would become the Hindus. Enqi saw their knowledge as an asset, allowing them to integrate and forever change the spiritual destiny of Earth. 200 fallen Aluhum, hermaphroditic beings, descended upon Nod, bringing alien deities and strange rituals that transformed the land. Enqi embraced their customs, elevating the bloodthirsty goddess Ishtar and defying the Anunnaki order. Seeking secrecy, they founded a hidden empire called Bali, a sanctuary for their cosmic horrors and forbidden worship. Bali became a shadow empire, ruled by these avatars, marking a new era of spiritual corruption on Earth. The land of Nod became a spiritual vortex, drawing powerful rebels from heaven and earth. At its heart was Hailal, the original rebel, cast from the heavens with 200 followers. They made Nod their fortress, joining outcasts and giants, turning the city into the headquarters of a cosmic insurgency. Hailal's army was not just exiled, They were an occupying force, launching a war against heaven from the soil of earth. Into a world of rebellion and forbidden knowledge came Cain, firstborn of Adamu and Hawa. Consumed by jealousy, he murdered his brother Abel and was cast out, marked and exiled to wander. Cain journeyed to Nod, land of outcasts, where he built the first city and became a king among exiles, forever changed by his crime. In the land of Nod, Cain's descendants forged a godless civilization, masters of metal, music and craft, but spiritually detached. Their skills caught the eye of the Anunnaki, who used them to build new domains across the seas. From Nod to distant lands, their legacy, marked by ambition and materialism, forever shaped human history. Before the Great Deluge, myth and geography intertwined. The Garden of Eden, described in ancient texts, was likely in Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. East of Eden lay the land of Nod, a place of exile and rebellion where outcasts gathered and a new civilization began. Some say there were two Edens, one of order, one of knowledge, reflecting the ancient world's core conflict. While Mesopotamia is the traditional site of Eden, a bold theory places it in Florida's Panhandle. L.V. Calloway claimed the Apalachicola river system matches Genesis, a river splitting into four heads. Here grows the rare Torreya taxifolia, linked to biblical gopher wood. If true, this theory could rewrite our understanding of the world before the flood. The narrative of a pre-flood American presence is not limited to the Garden of Eden. The Anunnaki texts themselves speak of a land beyond the seas, a domain established specifically for the descendants of Cain, or Cain. Following the Great Flood, Enlil became concerned by the growing power of Enki's son, Marduk, who was consolidating his influence among the surviving humans in Mesopotamia. To create a counterbalance, Enlil dispatched his own son and chief warrior, Ninurta, on a special mission. He was to find the surviving offspring of Cain and establish a new domain with them, far from the intrigues of the old world. This suggests a deliberate strategic colonization of the Americas. Ninurta journeyed across the Great Ocean and found the Cainite survivors. They were a people already skilled in metallurgy and construction, a legacy of the forbidden knowledge they had acquired in the land of Nod. Ninurta took them under his wing, enhancing their skills and guiding them to a new land. He taught them advanced engineering, architecture, and mining techniques. Under his divine supervision, they built a great city distinguished by its twin towers, a symbol of their new civilization. This new domain was established as a stronghold for Enlil's faction, a remote base of operations loyal to him, populated by the very lineage that had once been cast out. This land beyond the seas is also referred to as the land of the two narrows, a description that could aptly fit the geography of Central America, with the narrow isthmuses connecting the larger continents of North and South America. It is here that we see the rise of incredible civilizations like the Maya and the Aztec, known for their sophisticated calendars, monumental architecture, and notably their worship of sky gods. The legends of Quetzalcoatl, or Kukulkan, a fair-skinned bearded god who came from the sea to teach the people arts and sciences, align remarkably well with the story of an Anunnaki lord like Ninurta, or his associate Thoth, establishing a new civilization. This connection also sheds light on place names that seem to echo with ancient significance. The name Santa Cruz, Spanish for Holy Cross, is found throughout the Americas. While attributed to Christian origins, its prevalence could hint at a much older, pre-existing sacred symbolism. Anagrammatically, Santa can be rearranged to spell Satan, a curious coincidence that points to the deep, often inverted, spiritual legacy of these lands. The Americas, far from being a new world discovered only recently, may have been a key territory in the Anunnaki's global chessboard, a domain of the Cainites ruled by Ninurta, a world with a history stretching back to before the flood. Beyond the domains of Enlil in Mesopotamia and Ninurta in the Americas, there was, another great civilization in the world before the flood, the continent of Mu. This vast land, believed to have been located in the Pacific Ocean, was a realm of profound spiritual significance. It was here that a faction of the Anunnaki known as the Muslimun, or the agreeable Aluhum, lived. These were the ones who sought peace and submission to the will of the Most High, Alyun El. They were led by figures like Adafa and his mate Mami, who had a daughter named Anat. Mu was part of what was considered the Holy Land, Gadush, a place of spiritual purity. The central symbol of the culture of Mu was the Tau cross. This was not a symbol of crucifixion, but of resurrection and life. The Tau was a stylized representation of a celestial constellation, the Southern Cross. The people of Mu were keen observers of the heavens, and they understood the intricate relationship between the stars and the seasons on Earth. The appearance of the Southern Cross at a specific angle in the night sky was a sacred event, for it signaled the coming of the monsoons. It brought the long-awaited rains that would replenish the land and ensure the continuation of life. The cross was a symbol of hope, renewal, and the life-giving waters sent from the heavens. The civilization of Mu represented a third way, a path of peace and spiritual attunement that stood in contrast to both Enlil's rigid order and Enki's rebellious chaos. The teachings of Mu were focused on understanding the natural laws of the universe and living in harmony with them. They were a people of faith, not of conquest or intellectual pride. Their society was built on principles of balance and connection to the divine, a stark difference from the power struggles that consumed the other Anunnaki factions. Mu was a sanctuary, a place where the original peaceful intent of creation was preserved. The story of Mu and its sacred cross provides another layer to the complex pre-flood world. It shows that the planet was not merely a battleground for two warring brothers. There were other powers, other philosophies at play. The agreeable Aluhum of Mu represented a faction that had not been drawn into the feud. They maintained their connection to the source and held to a different standard. Their legacy, symbolized by the life-giving cross, speaks of a path of peace that was available to humanity, a spiritual alternative that was tragically lost, along with their entire continent, beneath the waves of the Great Flood. In the midst of the growing chaos and the spreading influence of the fallen, there remained a lineage of humanity that held true to the original covenant. These were the descendants of Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, who was born to replace the murdered Abel. This lineage was known as the Faithful Seed, a people who resisted the temptations of the Cainite civilization and the dark spirituality of Nod. They were the ones who continued to prostrate themselves in prayer before the Most High. Their devotion was so pure and constant that it was said to leave a physical mark upon them. This mark was the seal of Alyun El, impressed upon the foreheads of the enduring righteous. This was not a brand or a tattoo, but a radiance or mark that resulted from their constant prostration in prayer, the sajda. This mark of distinction identified them as the true ones of the peace congregation, the upright people who walked in the path of their ancestor, our servant Abraham. They were the Al-Mu'minin, the faithful, who bore the mark of their submission to the one true God. They were the spiritual ancestors of the 144,000 who are destined to be resurrected, the Ansaru Anu, the helpers of Anu. This community of the faithful represented the hope for humanity's redemption. While the descendants of Cain built cities of metal and might, and the people of Nod trafficked with fallen angels, the children of Seth cultivated their connection to the divine. They were the keepers of the sacred flame in a world that was rapidly darkening. They preserved the original teachings and the memory of the true nature of God, standing as a living testament against the corruption that was spreading across the earth. Their existence was a constant quiet rebellion against the rebellion of Helal and the hubris of the warring Anunnaki factions. Their story is crucial to understanding the world before the flood. It was not a world of monolithic evil. It was a world of choice. Humanity was presented with multiple paths. The path of Cain offered material power and technological advancement. The path of Nod offered forbidden knowledge and spiritual license. But the path of Seth offered righteousness, faith, and a direct connection to the Creator. The flood, when it came, was not just a punishment for wickedness, but also a purification, a way to wash the world clean so that the faithful seed preserved in the ark could have a new beginning, free from the overwhelming influence of the fallen. Humanity's story isn't just a straight line, it's shaped by a celestial war between Enlil and Enki. Their feud brought order and chaos to Earth, planting seeds of conflict in our civilizations, religions, and even our minds. We're the inheritors of this divided legacy, always torn between control and freedom. The echoes of their struggle still shape our world today. Enqi, in his defiant quest, opened a Pandora's box, welcoming the fallen, sheltering Cain, and offering humanity forbidden knowledge. But this well of knowledge was poisoned, twisting our development and leading us down a perilous path. It created a schism in the human soul, giving us power without wisdom, and a legacy of spiritual blindness we still struggle to escape. The feud between Enlil and Enki didn't just shape human culture, it left real scars on the earth. Our world is a relic, marked by ancient conflict and cataclysm. Modern nations are just ghosts of those divine domains, living among ruins and mistaking them for nature. The Great Flood was a reset, erasing civilizations and leaving us with a fractured legacy. The earth remembers. We just need to listen to its story. The saga of Enlil and Enki presents us with a timeless choice: order, chaos, or faith. Order offers security but risks tyranny. Chaos brings freedom and innovation but can lead to anarchy. Faith seeks balance, connection through devotion and humility. Today, as ever, we stand at the crossroads. Which path will you choose?